You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate agents and professionals all across the world about their wins, losses, lessons, and stories, help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. This is a solo episode. I want to say thank you for tuning in today. Today, I want to unpack something that my mentor, Sharon Srivatsa, president of Real, recently talked about on a podcast. And I want to dive into some things that it's got me thinking about and some encouragement I want to give you as you head into 2023. If you're in 2023 listening to this, some things that you can do to really raise your minimum standard. That's really the premise of today's video, is raise your minimum standard. What does that look like? I asked Sharon recently on a podcast about what it means to raise your minimum standard, what it means to actually do really cool things. And we chatted about how ordinary people become extraordinary. And we were having this conversation via podcast, and it really got me thinking about the intention I'm setting for my life in 2022. And the encouragement I want to give you is, like, what is the intention that you currently have for 2023? And how are you going to get there? How are you going to raise your minimum standard? And as we were having this conversation, Sharon and I, about raising your minimum standard, he told us a story about how somebody was making $70,000 a year, and then they had something happen in their life and they needed to make 130. It's like, how can you subconsciously raise your minimum standard, whether that be waking up an hour earlier, whether that is going to the gym, whether that is doing something really scary? What I want to encourage you this year is, like, if you really want to make 2023 the best year yet, we need to learn how to raise our minimum standards. Now, that's different for everyone. It could be something small to start. Something I've been working on with our team here at Sheridan Street is around non-negotiables. And I really think that non-negotiables create raising your minimum standard. So what I'm going to explain, I was having a conversation with my sales team the other day and my leadership team about, like, what are 3 things that you can accomplish every single day, that when you wake up, you know that these are 3 non-negotiables that you have to complete? Because the vast majority of real estate agents and the vast majority of sales professionals, they generally don't have the discipline in order to really complete 3 things, and they wander throughout their day. So I've chatted about this before, about time blocking time in your calendar, having discipline. But what does it mean for you? What would it look like for you if you dedicated yourself to completing 3 non-negotiables every day? How many needles could you move inside your business this year? How much traction could you create inside your business if you raised your minimum standard and you created what we call non-negotiables? I'm going to give you an example of what a non-negotiable is. Our sales team consistently has conversations about this, about creating non-negotiable. So a non-negotiable I chatted with one of my salespeople today about was, right now he's sitting at about a 40% show up rate, and he has about a 20% close rate. And I said to him, what would happen and what would life look like for you if you simply raised your minimum standard on your show up rate? Your show up rate is 40 to 45% right now. What if it went to 60%? What would that do for you? That additional 20% show up rate, if you committed to making sure that person gets on the phone with you, could equal a deal a week. If you raise your minimum standard and you said, okay, I generally make 200 calls, and out of those 200 calls, I generally book 1 appointment. What would happen in your business if you made 300 calls, or you hired an ISA and made 300 calls, and you made 300 calls and the ISA made 300 calls? What would happen in your business? The whole premise of today's talk is really about raising your minimum standards and setting non-negotiables on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, and working backwards towards what you want to do. If you want a 3x your business, amazing goal. I love that. But how are you going to get there? What are the non-negotiables that you need to accomplish daily? You need to accomplish weekly, you need to accomplish monthly, you need to accomplish quarterly. I would encourage you today to take a look at what that goal is and begin to work backwards. Raise your minimum standard. Thanks so much for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.